So it's D-Day. Very, very close to the day that King Charles has to make a decision about whether he is going to give in to what I believe is very public bullying from his despicable, duplicitous son using the mainstream media, and have this face-to-face with Prince Harry when he is in London on Monday for his cancer treatment, or side with his other son, his loyal son, the heir to the throne, Prince William, and say, unfortunately, I am not going to give you the ammunition to use against the royal family. Lady Colin Campbell, what is Charles going to do, and why does nobody know? If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform.
Take on it. And remember, Dan, this is a subject I'm extremely familiar with.
No, it's fascinating. Fascinating view.
Do you think it will be quite as big as they think it's going to be? Because
no, I agree with you, but it depends how dramatic Harry goes. And I want to talk to you about this later, but I mean, for example, if he starts questioning whether his mother was killed or not, then all of a sudden you get something quite bombshell. And I do want to come to that in just one moment. But before that, Lady C, really want to get your view on Queen Camilla and this revelation that came from the new Valentine Lowe book about a sex attack that she suffered on a train when she was 16 or 17 years old, because there's been two different takes on this story. So I just want to show you two videos and then get your view as someone who was very much on the same social circuit as Camilla at that time.
But my understanding is that he is very on his guard where Harry is concerned, and that the complications of the relationship are such that there's not going to be any, oh, darling boy, it's so wonderful to see you, and let's kiss and make up. Harry hasn't apologized or even withdrawn the accusations of racism against Charles or against Catherine. He hasn't withdrawn any of the accusations against Camilla or against William. Now, you could say that Charles might take the view that William is perfectly capable of protecting himself, but that's not so where Catherine and Camilla are concerned, and that Charles doesn't want to be manipulated. And remember, he's used to being manipulated as well. He knows that Diana used to create situations like this. And he's been through it before. He's been around the block with her, so to speak. So Meghan and Harry coming up with what they regard as new tactics isn't going to work.
But now, back to the show.
Well, it would be the end in tasteless exploitation. The only way that a Diana documentary is going to actually grab the public's attention, because remember, Diana has been dead for 28 years now. By the time they get that up and running, she'd be dead for 29 or 30 years. That means all the major youthful demographic has no experience of Diana, no real interest in Diana. You and I may have an interest in Diana, you because you are a professional journalist, I because I have written 2 books on her. But the fact of the matter is that Diana is a dead subject in more ways than one. And so I think you need to bear that in mind.
The clock is ticking, and for King Charles, the countdown may end, with a choice that could fracture the royal family beyond repair. On Monday, Prince Harry lands in London. And if whispers from inside the palace walls are true, he's not just here to visit. He's here to force a meeting his father doesn't want, a meeting that his brother, Prince William, flat out opposes. But most of all, a meeting that smells like a carefully staged media trap. because this isn't about reconciliation. It's about leverage. For weeks, headlines in both the Mail and the Telegraph have teased the possibility of a face-to-face reunion, a healing moment, a private peace summit. But there's one problem. According to insiders, King Charles never agreed to it. No phone calls, no messages, nothing. And yet, there it is, splashed across the tabloids as if it's already happening. Who leaked it? Who benefits from making it look inevitable? Only one person, Prince Harry. Prince. According to royal sources, Harry's tactic is textbook. Create a media narrative so strong that his father feels publicly shamed into accepting a private meeting. He's leveraging public sympathy, weaponizing headlines, and daring the king to say no, knowing full well how it'll play out in the press if he does. Headlines will scream snubbed, social media will rage, and Netflix, they'll eat it up because this isn't about family. It's about footage, narrative, content, and King Charles knows it. Lady Colin Campbell, one of the most outspoken voices in royal commentary, didn't mince words. She called Harry's actions public bullying, a blatant manipulative ambush designed to trap the monarch in an emotional corner. And to make matters worse, there's a pattern. The last time Harry flew to London unexpectedly, he wrangled a 12-minute meeting with his father that Charles didn't even know about until Harry's plane was already in the air. It caused delays, confusion, and backlash. The palace has not forgotten, but this time, the stakes are even higher. Because Charles isn't just dealing with an estranged son, he's dealing with a ticking time bomb of PR, potential recordings, and a very real fear of being manipulated into another media circus. Meghan's Netflix deals are teetering, their influence is fading, and Harry? He needs proximity to power, fast. So what's really going on here? The answer lies in the headlines, and the chilling way Prince Harry may be using them to psychologically corner the king. When Prince Harry turned his back on the royal institution, he didn't just trade crowns for California sunshine, he traded silence for strategy. And now, that strategy is unfolding in real time, in broad daylight, right on the front pages of Britain's most powerful newspapers. It started subtly, a leak here, a palace source there. But over the past week, the campaign has grown louder, more targeted, and disturbingly calculated. Headlines from the Mail and The Telegraph began predicting a father-son reunion, not suggesting, not speculating, but stating, as if it were a done deal, a royal moment just waiting to be filmed, framed, and repackaged for future content. But according to royal insiders, there's just one issue. The palace never confirmed any of it. And that's exactly the point. Lady Colin Campbell described it perfectly. Harry is using the media not as a mirror, but as a weapon, not to reflect reality, but to reshape it. This isn't just public relations. It's psychological warfare. And it all centers around a classic manipulative tactic, projection. Here's how it works. Harry has long accused the royal family of briefing the press, spinning stories, and planting narratives. And now, he's doing the very thing he once condemned. He leaks to the press, creates a sense of inevitability, and dares his father to contradict it. Because if King Charles denies the meeting, cue the outrage, cue the victim narrative, cue the public sympathy. It's a win-win for Harry, unless Charles refuses to play the game. And the timing isn't accidental. With the Montecito brand floundering and Netflix's patience running thin, Harry needs headlines, and fast. The Royal Insider Act only works if he stays near the royal core. Meghan knows this. Netflix knows this. And now it seems Harry is willing to risk total estrangement from his family just to stay in the conversation. The most dangerous part? Charles knows these tricks. He's seen them before. And not just from Harry. According to Lady C, this tactic is hauntingly familiar to the way Princess Diana used media as leverage during her most turbulent years with Charles. And now, Harry appears to be running the same playbook, the same leaks, the same manipulation, the same emotional blackmail through headlines. But Charles has learned from the past. There are whispers inside the palace that the king won't make the same mistake twice, that he won't let another media storm dictate his next move. Not this time. Because unlike Diana's era, there's a new force behind the scenes, determined to protect the king from emotional sabotage. And that force is Queen Camilla, who's already made it clear that Harry isn't just dangerous, he's potentially wired. This isn't just a family rift. This is national security level paranoia wrapped in royal protocol. Because behind the whispers of reconciliation, beyond the polite headlines and hopeful speculation, there's a chilling question that nobody inside the palace wants to answer publicly. Is Prince Harry recording his own family? It sounds like a tabloid fantasy. But inside royal circles, this isn't a wild conspiracy. It's a real pressing fear. And it's altering every single decision King Charles makes about his estranged son. According to both Dan Wooten and Lady Colin Campbell, top courtiers and senior royals have privately discussed, for years, the possibility that Harry wears a covert recording device during meetings with the royal family. Not metaphorically, literally, a wire, hidden under a suit, or stitched into the lining of a shirt, a tactic that, if true, would escalate this family feud into a full-blown scandal of espionage and betrayal. And it's not hard to understand why the suspicion exists. The stakes have never been higher. Harry and Meghan's brand is collapsing under the weight of failed projects, public backlash, and dwindling Netflix patience. They've burned bridges in Britain. Hollywood is cooling. Spotify is gone. Their last card? Exclusive royal content. Unfiltered. Personal. Emotional. The kind of content only a secretly recorded meeting could provide. Which is why Camilla, queen consort, wife, and now royal gatekeeper, has drawn a hard line in the sand. According to Lady C, Camilla has made it her personal mission to ensure that King Charles is never again emotionally exploited by his son. She's reportedly pushing for full security protocols before any face-to-face is even considered. And she's not alone. Palace insiders are said to be demanding pat-downs, signal blockers, third-party witnesses, and strict conditions if Harry wants a private audience with his father. Nothing left to chance. Nothing left unrecorded. By them. Because last time, Charles got blindsided. That infamous 12-minute meeting at Clarence House, the one that delayed the king's departure to Sandringham, was reportedly arranged while Harry was already mid-flight. There were no calls beforehand, no scheduling, no notice. Just Harry, parachuting in with cameras watching, knowing full well the pressure his arrival would create. The palace hasn't forgotten, and this time they're playing defense. Even the idea of a phone call has been ruled out. Dan Wooten revealed that Charles refuses to speak to Harry directly on the phone out of fear that the call could be recorded, spliced, and weaponized later. Think about that. A father too afraid to call his own son because he doesn't trust that the conversation won't end up in a documentary, a podcast, or a Netflix special. That's not a family rift. That's Cold War level suspicion. And it's not paranoia if there's precedent. Harry has a history of recording and releasing deeply private moments, whether it's royal conversations, emotional confessions, or family drama. His memoir Spare didn't just break protocol. It shattered any illusion of confidentiality. He exposed personal fights, secret thoughts, and private meetings. So why wouldn't the palace assume the worst? Now, the only way any meeting happens is if Harry agrees to a full security sweep, a pat-down, a stripped environment with zero digital devices, no phones, no watches, no excuses. But here's the twist. Insiders say Harry would never agree to those terms because agreeing to be searched would be an admission that there's something to hide. It would strip him of control. The one thing he's always tried to maintain in every media narrative about the royals, which puts King Charles in an impossible position. He can't trust Harry. He can't risk being secretly recorded. And yet the press keeps pushing the healing storyline, trying to shame him into opening the gates. But what would really be healed? Nothing. Especially not when the king believes his own son might be planting devices to document his downfall. Because this isn't about forgiveness, it's about footage. And behind the scenes, Queen Camilla isn't the only one saying no more. Prince William has already taken his stand, and his message is brutally clear. Never alone with Harry, ever again. Behind the palace walls, where loyalty is currency and silence is power, Queen Camilla has made her position brutally clear. There will be no reconciliation with Harry unless she says so. And right now, that answer is a resounding no. While King Charles is known for his sentimentality, his aching desire to be both monarch and father, Camilla plays a very different game. She's seen what happens when emotion trumps logic. She's watched Charles get burned before, and she's not about to let it happen again. Not on her watch, not with Harry. Because to Camilla, this isn't just a personal grudge. It's a matter of institutional survival. According to Lady Colin Campbell, Camilla has emerged as one of the strongest forces behind the king's refusal to meet with Harry on this upcoming London visit. And she's not acting alone. A coalition of courtiers, senior aides, and even security officials is said to be rallying behind her. Their shared goal? Protect the monarch from manipulation, traps, and emotional sabotage. Let's be honest, Camilla has been through the fire. She survived decades of public hatred, media humiliation, and royal scandal to become queen. She knows what it means to be targeted. She knows what it's like to be scapegoated. And that's exactly why she sees right through Harry and Meghan's tactics. Projection, performance, pity, none of it works on her. Camilla knows the game, and she knows when it's being played. And she's calling it out. Behind closed doors, sources say Camilla believes every inch given to Harry is a mile handed to Meghan. And Meghan, in her eyes, isn't just a threat to the family. She's a strategic opportunist who sees the royal brand as a PR piggy bank. According to Lady C, Camilla is convinced that Harry doesn't operate independently, that every meeting, every conversation, every emotional moment is scripted, rehearsed, and staged to fuel the couple's media empire. And Charles, he's the perfect mark. Camilla reportedly worries that her husband's kindness, his empathetic, often hesitant approach to confrontation, leaves him wide open to exploitation. He wants to believe the best in his son. He wants to avoid conflict. And that softness, in Camilla's eyes, could be fatal for the crown. Because this isn't just about family drama, it's about protecting the monarchy's credibility. Let's not forget, Harry hasn't apologized for the racism allegations. He hasn't retracted the accusations aimed at Charles, Catherine, William, or Camilla herself. There's been no remorse, no acknowledgement of damage done, no attempt to repair what he destroyed in Spare. And yet, he wants a meeting. Camilla's position? Absolutely not. And when it comes to meetings, she has one ironclad rule. Charles will never be alone in a room with Harry. Not ever again. That rule isn't paranoia, it's policy. Dan Wooten revealed that Charles and William made a pact in 2021, one that Camilla fully supports, that they would never, under any circumstance, meet with Harry without a trusted witness present. Because last time Harry twisted the narrative, and next time, he might twist something much worse. Camilla reportedly favors having private secretaries, security aides, or high-ranking courtiers present for any interaction with Harry. No closed doors, no off-the-record conversations. Everything above board, controlled, documented, safe. Because in Camilla's eyes, this is no longer about healing a family. This is about preventing an ambush. And if Charles bends to Harry now, if he agrees to a secret meeting for optics, for sentiment, for closure, then he opens the floodgates, not just to Harry, but to the entire Montecito machine. The leaks, the interviews, the narratives. Meghan's next Netflix script practically writes itself. That's why Camilla is holding the line. She's not just protecting her husband, she's protecting the institution, the monarchy, the legacy, and she's not doing it quietly. But Camilla isn't the only one guarding the gates. Prince William made a promise too, and his silent refusal speaks louder than any press release. In the ancient halls of monarchy, loyalty isn't just expected, it's tested. And Prince William, the future King of England, has just drawn the line where his loyalty ends. Not with his father, not with the crown, but with his own brother. Because behind the closed doors of palace strategy meetings, something has become unshakably clear. William has no intention of forgiving Harry, and he has even less intention of ever being alone with him again. According to Dan Wooten, this isn't a casual boundary. It's a formal agreement, a pact, forged between Prince William and King Charles in the aftermath of Harry's escalating attacks. And it's not just about bad blood. It's about protection from spin, manipulation, and media weaponry. The terms? Simple, brutal, unbreakable. Never meet with Harry alone. Always have a witness. Never trust that a conversation will remain private. This pact was solidified after the last ambush meeting, when Harry flew in unexpectedly and cornered his father for a rushed 12-minute conversation at Clarence's house. Charles hadn't even been told Harry was coming. The moment became palace legend. It delayed the king's schedule, sparked a media frenzy, and left senior aides furious at how Harry had once again outmaneuvered royal protocol. William took note, and he made a decision. He would never be caught in that position. Not again. Not ever. Behind William's icy silence lies a years-long buildup of betrayal. From the infamous Oprah interview and the racism allegations, to the Netflix series that sliced through royal reputation, to Spare, a memoir that didn't just reveal secrets, but attacked the very foundation of the monarchy. William was painted as the villain, a hothead, a bully, and he's never forgotten it. And yet, despite all this, the press keeps floating the possibility of a reunion, a brotherly reset, a royal healing. But insiders say William is adamant. This is a fantasy concocted by Harry's PR machine, not a plan agreed upon by the royal household. To William, every new leak about a potential face-to-face meeting is more evidence of Harry's manipulation. The goal, in William's view, is to apply pressure, not to reconnect, but to control the narrative. Once the press begins printing that a meeting is imminent, it becomes harder for the royals to publicly deny it without looking cruel or cold. But William won't be swayed. He sees this tactic for what it is, a trap disguised as an olive branch. And let's not forget, William's loyalty is split between two identities, as a son and as a future sovereign. He's not just trying to protect his father, he's trying to protect the institution he will one day lead. A meeting with Harry, especially without ironclad controls, would be an act of weakness in William's eyes, a sign that the crown can be manipulated through tabloid pressure. Those headlines can twist a monarch's will. And if Charles bows now, what does that mean for William's reign? The answer for William is simple. Harry can't be trusted. Not with private conversations, not with secrets, not with optics. And he's not the only one who believes this. Sources close to the palace say William's stance has hardened in recent months, especially as rumors swirl about Harry's alleged involvement in a potential Diana documentary with Netflix. The idea that his own brother could exploit their mother's memory for profit has left William both disgusted and furious. Which makes one thing clear: there is no brotherly bond left, no shared grief, no reconciliation on the horizon, only terms, rules, boundaries, and a unified front between Charles William and Camilla, one that leaves Harry firmly on the outside. And while the press may still pretend there's a reunion around the corner, the royal inner circle knows the truth. This isn't a family drama. It's a hostile negotiation. And Prince William just made sure there will be no loopholes. But even as William and Camilla tighten the gates, Harry isn't backing down, because he's holding a nuclear option that could blow the monarchy wide open. And it's spelled D-I-A-N-A. Some cards, once played, cannot be taken back. And Prince Harry may be about to lay down the one card that blows everything apart: his mother. Because behind the headlines, behind the orchestrated leaks and strategic silence, something far more dangerous is in motion. And it's not a reconciliation tour, it's a deal. Multiple sources, including royal commentator Rob Shooter and The Royal Rundown, are now reporting that advanced talks are underway between Harry, Netflix, and possibly even Earl Spencer, Princess Diana's own brother, to create the ultimate documentary, a legacy-shattering, narrative-bending, emotion-soaked weapon, a Princess Diana film told by her son, and not just any film, a dramatized, heavily editorialized, modern reinterpretation of Diana's life, one that may not stop at retelling the story, one that might rewrite it. The implications? Devastating. This project isn't just an innocent tribute, it's being described by Hollywood insiders as the ultimate card to play. Why? Because Netflix is bleeding. The Sussexes are floundering. Their last few projects underperformed or outright bombed. And this is the Hail Mary, the nuclear option, the trump card that could extend the deal, reignite public interest, and hand Meghan and Harry exactly what they've lost: relevance. And Harry knows it. He knows how Diana's name still commands power, even 28 years after her death. He knows how a new generation, untouched by the facts but hungry for drama, can be drawn in with just the right music, just the right slow motion shots, just the right implication that there's more to the story. That Diana's death wasn't just a tragedy, but a conspiracy. Lady Colin Campbell didn't hold back. She called it exactly what it is: opportunistic exploitation, an attempt to cash in on a woman who can no longer speak for herself. She warned that unless this documentary is grounded in verifiable reality, it will descend into pure speculation. The kind of speculation that raises dangerous questions. Was Diana bumped off? Was it the firm? Was it Prince Philip? MI6? Camilla? The more outrageous the theory, the more clicks. The more drama, the more money. And Netflix? They're not looking for subtlety. They're looking for traction. But let's be crystal clear. This would be a betrayal of biblical proportions, not just of the monarchy, but of Prince William. Because unlike Harry, William has fought to preserve his mother's dignity, to protect her legacy from becoming a commodity, from being reshaped to fit new political narratives. He made peace with her memory privately, quietly, as a son. But Harry? He's about to go loud. And what makes it even worse? The rumor that Earl Spencer may be involved. Diana's brother, a man who famously stood by her coffin, who gave that iconic funeral speech, and who now, allegedly, may be joining forces with Harry to put the crown on trial, again on camera, for a new generation. If true, this would be more than just a content grab. It would be a full-scale media assault on the monarchy, using its most emotionally charged figure. And once that film is in production, there's no turning back. Sources say Netflix is pushing hard for a dark, suggestive tone, one that implies there were unanswered questions about Diana's death. Not outright accusations, but leading edits, careful music, strategic omissions, and perhaps, just perhaps, a moment where Harry suggests that something more sinister was at play. And that's the point. They don't need proof, they just need doubt. Because doubt sells. It's the same playbook Harry and Meghan have used before. Raise a cloud of suspicion, avoid direct accusations, and let the public imagination do the rest. They did it with the racism allegations. They did it with their truth bombs on Oprah. Now it's Diana's turn. And make no mistake, this is exactly why Charles is refusing to meet. He knows what's coming. He sees the chessboard. If Harry is willing to exploit his mother's legacy to stay on Netflix's payroll, what's stopping him from spinning a secret royal meeting into an emotional cliffhanger? Nothing. And the rumors swirling around this documentary aren't just about the past. They're about how far Harry might go next, including the darkest question of all. Was Diana killed? There's a line most royal commentators won't touch. A question so toxic, so incendiary, that even decades later, it sits like an unexploded grenade in the heart of the monarchy. But now, thanks to Prince Harry's rumored Netflix negotiations, that question is back, and louder than ever. Was Princess Diana killed? It's the conspiracy that refuses to die. For 28 years, it's lingered in dark corners of tabloids, whispered in YouTube comments, and churned through online forums. Most serious investigators dismissed it. The official inquest declared it an accident. But Harry's alleged new documentary may blow that conclusion wide open. not by proving anything new, but by suggesting just enough to raise doubt. And make no mistake, doubt is more dangerous than a declaration. According to Lady Colin Campbell, the only way this upcoming Diana project could attract serious traction is by reviving the assassination theory. Because the facts, they're old news. The car crash, the paparazzi, the tragic night in Paris, it's all been dissected to death. The younger generation barely remembers Diana. For them, this isn't history, it's drama, and drama needs a villain. So who becomes the target? Prince Philip? The Firm? MI6? Camilla? Speculation is a slippery slope, and it's one Netflix has skated on before. Just look at The Crown, which was accused of blurring the line between fact and fiction so effectively that it convinced millions that fabricated scenes were historical truth. Now imagine that same editorial treatment applied to Diana's death, with Harry narrating, with Earl Spencer endorsing, with no one left to refute it. The emotional impact would be explosive, but the political consequences? Devastating. Because let's be brutally honest, if Harry even implies that Diana's death was orchestrated, he would be accusing his own family of murder by omission, of knowing more than they let on, of covering up the truth, of being complicit. It would be the ultimate betrayal. Lady C warned that this kind of speculative sensationalism doesn't just damage reputations, it breaks families permanently. If Harry crosses this line, there's no way back. Not to William, not to Charles, not to the country that once adored his mother, and now sees him as the steward of her legacy. And here's the kicker. He doesn't even have to say it outright. He just has to pause, look sad, say something like, "There are things we were never told," or "She feared for her safety." He just has to imply that the royal family didn't do enough. They were part of the problem. That someone, unnamed, unblamed, but implied, wanted Diana gone. That's all it takes. Because modern media isn't about facts, it's about suggestion. The documentary doesn't need proof, it just needs feeling, vibe, atmosphere, an eerie soundtrack, a reenactment, a teary-eyed glance. Let the audience fill in the blanks, and the damage will be done. Charles and William are painfully aware of this. That's why, as Lady C said, the mere idea of a meeting with Harry days before such a documentary could begin production is unthinkable. It's not just a PR risk, it's a betrayal in progress, a countdown to detonation. And if Charles lets his guard down now, even for a moment, that footage, that encounter, could become part of the spin. Remember, Diana's name isn't just personal, it's political. And once this documentary hits the public, the monarchy may be forced to defend itself against ghosts, against half-truths, against weaponized grief. So let's be clear, if Harry goes there, if he crosses that line and turns his mother's death into content, then this isn't just a family drama anymore, it becomes war. But while Diana's legacy is being twisted for profit, another royal is stepping into the spotlight, Queen Camilla, and the traumatic revelation from her past that no one saw coming. While the media fixates on Prince Harry's rumored Diana documentary and its explosive potential, another story, quieter, older, but no less powerful, has re-emerged from the shadows. And this time, it's not about speculation or spin, it's about survival. Queen Camilla, often painted by critics as cold or calculating, has always been a polarizing figure. For decades, she bore the brunt of Diana loyalists' rage, reduced to the other woman in a fairy tale gone wrong. But now, thanks to a revelation buried in Valentine Lowe's new book, the public is being forced to see her through a different lens, not as the royal interloper, but as a victim. Because long before the crowns and carriages, before the headlines and judgment, Camilla was just a teenage girl riding a train. And one day, that train became a battlefield. At 16 or 17 years old, Camilla was reportedly sexually assaulted in public, groped by a stranger on her way to London Paddington. The story came to light during a conversation she had years later with Boris Johnson, then Mayor of London. When he asked what she had done in response, Camilla didn't hesitate. According to Valentine Lowe, she said calmly, "I did what my mother taught me. I took off my shoe and I whacked him in the nuts with the heel." The line might sound humorous, even triumphant, but make no mistake, this wasn't a moment of sass. It was a moment of survival, and it speaks volumes about the woman Camilla became. Lady Colin Campbell, herself no stranger to aristocratic circles, pushed back hard against those who tried to downplay the event, particularly Tom Bower, whose dismissive comments on GB News sparked outrage. He painted Camilla as a party girl, flirtatious, social, someone for whom this kind of incident was somehow expected, a rite of passage. Lady C wasn't having it. She slammed the comparison. What happens at a private party, she said, is not the same as being assaulted in a public space. Camilla didn't invite this. She didn't deserve it. And the fact that she fought back doesn't make the incident less traumatic. It makes her more formidable. Because here's what this moment reveals. Camilla has always been a fighter. Long before the crown, she was learning to defend herself, not just with sharp heels, but with sharper instincts. That experience, humiliating and horrifying as it was, didn't break her. It hardened her, taught her where boundaries must be drawn, taught her that silence is not always safety. And now, decades later, those lessons are being put to use in a very different battlefield, one filled not with strangers on a train, but with estranged sons holding microphones. Camilla's past may explain everything about her present. Why does she refuse to let Harry and Meghan manipulate King Charles? Why does she insist on strict protocols, pat-downs, witnesses, no private meetings? Why doesn't she flinch when accused of being cold? Why doesn't she chase approval or seek redemption through PR? Because she's already fought for her dignity once, and now she's fighting for Charles's. More than anything, this story obliterates the tabloid caricature of Camilla as a calculating power seeker. She is a woman who has endured violation, humiliation, and decades of vilification, and yet still stands tall as queen. Not because she clawed her way to the top, but because she refused to be broken. And this, ironically, is what makes her the most underestimated figure in the royal family today. Because while Harry and Meghan play chess with headlines and manipulate narratives to gain sympathy, Camilla's pain is real. And it was never paraded for profit. She didn't write a memoir about it. She didn't monetize the trauma. She didn't demand the world feel sorry for her. She took off her shoe. She fought back. And she moved forward. In a palace currently drowning in spin, Camilla may be the only one still grounded in reality. Raw, uncomfortable, but real. And that's why she's become Charles's fiercest protector. Because she knows exactly what happens when boundaries are crossed. And she's not about to let Harry cross another one. But while Camilla guards the present, the past is being twisted behind closed doors, as Harry prepares to rewrite royal history, one leak at a time. For all his public composure and carefully measured words, King Charles is no stranger to chaos. He's lived through scandals, betrayals, and global humiliation. He's weathered the storm of Diana's public heartbreak, Camilla's vilification, and now, the unrelenting media machine that is Harry and Meghan. But here's what no one wants to say out loud. Charles has seen this exact playbook before. Only this time, it's not coming from his ex-wife. It's coming from his own son. The palace knows the pattern. Whispered speculation, leaked stories, sudden crisis moments that erupt just before a tour, a launch, a royal appearance, or a Netflix deadline. And right now, the buzz around a so-called reunion between Charles and Harry reeks of manufactured narrative. Not a heartfelt plea. Not a family mending itself. A trap. According to Lady Colin Campbell, it's almost too obvious. The sudden stories in the Telegraph and the Mail, the anonymous royal insiders are saying a meeting is likely. The implication is that the king would appear cruel if he refused. But here's the kicker. Charles never agreed to a meeting. There's been no communication, no scheduling, no private secretary briefings. So why is it all over the news? Because Harry needs it to be. As Lady C points out, this isn't new. Princess Diana used the same tactics during her separation from Charles, using media leaks and press pressure to corner the palace into public responses. It worked back then because Charles was still learning how to survive under the full glare of modern media warfare. But now he's lived through it, and he's not biting the bait. He knows that if he agrees to meet Harry now, the timing will be weaponized. His kindness will be edited, cropped, turned into proof that the rift is healing. Just in time for the next Sussex production. It's not a conversation, it's content. And Charles is finally starting to treat it that way, because it's not just Harry's presence that concerns him, it's what happens next. A leak to the Mirror, a smirking Netflix teaser, a subtle line in a podcast about finally feeling heard. And before you know it, the entire royal family becomes a storyline again, not by their choice, but because Harry decided it was profitable. Let's not forget, Charles has already been burned. In Spare, Harry accused his father of coldness, of emotional neglect, of failing him as a son. And yet, here we are again, with Harry allegedly orchestrating a media campaign to trap that same father into another encounter, just as rumors swirl of a Netflix Diana documentary in pre-production. The timing is no accident. Lady C is clear, this isn't a reconciliation tour. This is a media event wrapped in emotional blackmail. And Charles, for all his flaws, finally seems to understand that. He's not just wary of being recorded, he's wary of being rewritten, of becoming a character in a narrative he didn't authorize. That's why the palace's silence is so telling. No confirmation, no denial, no leaks from Charles's side, because he knows any reaction becomes a headline, and every headline feeds the beast. So for now, the king watches, waits, refuses to move. And in doing so, he denies Harry the one thing he craves more than forgiveness: content. This is Charles's quiet resistance. Not loud, not angry, but unshakable. And it's supported by Camilla, by William, and by senior courtiers who have seen enough to know exactly how this game is played. But here's the tragedy beneath the politics. Charles does still care about Harry, about the family, about legacy, but caring doesn't mean surrender. And silence in this case is the only protection left. Because once he opens that door, Once he gives Harry even 5 unsupervised minutes, the monarchy risks becoming a reality show guest star. And after a lifetime of fighting to protect the institution, Charles may finally be realizing that fatherhood and kingship cannot coexist with someone who sees both as branding opportunities. Now, with everything on the line, legacy, family, the future of the crown, King Charles faces the question no monarch wants to ask. Does blood still matter when trust is gone? At the center of this storm, this spectacle of headlines, documentaries, staged rumors, and silent betrayals, stands a man not just called to rule, but to decide. Not just to govern, but to protect. King Charles, now older, sicker, and more scrutinized than ever, faces the most impossible choice of his reign: legacy or love. He cannot have both. On one side stands Prince Harry, a son whose grief has metastasized into grievance, whose every move seems curated for maximum exposure, and whose next project may very well cast his own family as villains in the retelling of his mother's death. A son who demands a meeting without apology, a reconciliation without accountability, and who seems to believe that proximity to the crown is a right, not a privilege. On the other stands Prince William, the heir, the soldier, the loyal son who stayed, the man who kept silent through every accusation, who buried his mother and then buried the drama, choosing duty over catharsis. A man now leading the charge to hold the line, to defend the institution that will one day be his. And beside him, Queen Camilla, weathered, fierce, unflinching, who knows exactly what manipulation looks like and refuses to let it through the palace gates again. And then there's Charles himself, a man who has already buried one wife, watched another be crucified by public opinion, and now finds his sons, once the hope of the monarchy, pitted against each other in a cold war of leaked stories and emotional sabotage. He has tried, quietly, to be both king and father, to hold the scepter in one hand and an olive branch in the other. But now, the olive branch is being used against him. If Charles agrees to meet Harry, he risks validating the manipulation. He risks having that moment recorded, twisted, spun into another Netflix narrative where his pain becomes a prop. He risks undermining the very monarchy he was born to defend. If he refuses, he becomes the villain, the distant father, the cold monarch, the man who turned away his son at the gates. And Harry will make sure the world sees it that way. It's an impossible position, but here's the brutal truth. Harry left the family, and now he's trying to haunt it. The timing of this supposed reunion is no coincidence. It's a PR campaign disguised as a peace offer, a media strategy cloaked in emotional urgency. And Charles, for all his desire to heal, must now confront a reality that no father wants to admit. Sometimes love must yield to survival, because this isn't about mending hearts. It's about protecting the crown from exploitation, from deception, from being turned into a stage prop by a man who once swore he wanted privacy, and now demands press coverage for every moment he tries to reclaim it. So Charles must choose. Will he open the door, let Harry in, and risk watching his own words appear in the opening credits of the next Sussex documentary? Or will he close it and cement his place in history as the monarch who chose the monarchy over blood? There is no safe path left, only the one that endures. And if Charles has learned anything from the ghosts of Windsor, it's this: kings don't get to grieve publicly. They get to rule, or be ruled. And as Monday looms, the world watches. Because if this door opens, it might never close again.